me go to mine.
Oh, there's Dan. Hey, Dan.
Hey, Dan.
Right on.
Thanks for the super heart. Okay, let me go.
See, there's that thing again.
What thing? Oh, I mean, that's just it just happens. Take this. How's everybody doing out there?
What's up, Mark?
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to just ignore that one.
I like the Faith, Hope, Love name.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Who there? Oh, hey. Willem, Felipe Willem.
Hey there, hi there, ho there.
I don't know if you know him. He does the Bible studies, basically.
Hey there, hi there, ho there. Who does that? It's from a movie.
Hey, what's that from?
Who's that from?
Okay, where's Jane? Hold on. Where's my friend Jane? Swamp Fire.
Yeah, Sarah can.
There she is. Did he say? No.
He hasn't said it yet. What's up, Billy?
Paste. Okay.
These are online classes.
How y'all doing out there in the midst of the shutdown? Are you guys at home or at work? Working crazy online classes for my students. Yeah, my daughter has, she's still allowed to do. Oh, hey, Kathy. So glad you're here because we're going to need to talk.
Yep.
My daughter is going to school to get a degree in occupational therapy, and they're letting her continue her work online. And so she's so bored that she's already caught up for all her work the next 2 weeks. Her room is totally spotless. I mean, it's like she's so bored.
That's another positive.
Last night she went to the store. Don't tell Chairman Lee of the state of Tennessee. That's Governor Bill Lee is he's the governor of Tennessee, and I'm referring to him.
But we have new titles for a lot of these governors now. They're chairman.
She's
chairman.
working on home. Yeah, my daughter is. That's a good reply right there.
I have a daughter and 2 sons as well, Dan.
Michaela is 24, and then my son is 26. But Michaela's still here at home. But last night she wanted me to. She went to the store. I was telling you she went to the store, and I was saying don't tell Chairman Lee of Tennessee because he sent out some tweets yesterday. I don't know if you saw daughters. He sent out a tweet reminding everyone that they need to stay at home. He said that in the article, their data has shown them that in recent days, people aren't doing their part to stay home. He said the last couple of weeks, Tennesseans have been really good about staying home and not getting out. And I guess their data is showing them that we're getting stir crazy and we're not complying with their orders. And he was reminding us that we need to do that. We need to get that trend going back down.
I saw that. I saw a tweet about a Target doing that
I know.
They're quarantining non-essential items in the stores. That's crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah, we're wondering about the data too, and I'm pretty sure it's our cell phones.
It's got to be the cell.
Where else would it be?
I know they can monitor, your purchases.
And another area was saying something about the data's telling. Oh, Burt's was saying something. The data's telling us that people aren't distancing like they should be.
Right.
That's not scary at all.
Not at all. It's just so very Soviet or communist-like. But anyway, so my daughter last night, she went to Walgreens to get some things, and she came home with a couple of puzzles and we did a puzzle last night. I haven't done that with her since she was like 7 years old, but that's how bored she's tired of the online life. She's tired of being home, and she is a bartender waitress at a kind of a high-end restaurant here in Collierville, and they're still doing takeout. But and I think they're going to be okay. They've really financially been really smart about how they do business, but there's only a couple of people that they need to do the takeout, and they're letting people that their families are dependent on their job. And she's like, if anybody wants off, please, I want to go back to work.
And that's what, the title of our scope today is the exponential growth is in the job loss. It's not in the
Right.
virus itself. And this thing, and I'm
Yeah.
posting an update. I'm using two websites to get the actual data with hospitalizations for Mississippi, and you can get it for every state in the union. And then I've got another website, the IMHE, with the models that all these, the federal government, everybody's using, basing all this on, that we found out is not very accurate. And
Right.
so yesterday I started. Today was day 2 of me updating, sending to Chairman Tate Reeves of Mississippi. Why are you doing this? Because as of today, we were supposed to have 1,011, I think, hospitalizations
Okay.
according to the model, and we've actually got, I think it's about 360.
Yeah.
And it just keeps the model keeps saying higher and higher. This is why we are shutting Mississippi down as of 5 o'clock today, because he had still resisted, but everybody kept putting pressure on him.
Yeah, that's another
Heads of
thing.
hospitals and stuff. You've got to do this. You've got to do this.
Right. So what's happening in a lot of these red states is they're getting a lot of pressure from blue city mayors, and we think kind of Soros-like groups that are. I have no idea the pressure that's being brought down on these people. DeSantis, he hadn't shut everything down, and now he's pretty much doing what all the other states are doing. And we wanted to just do this scope to kind of check in with you guys, and even in the midst of all of there's a lot of dark things going on right now. The loss of civil liberties, and those are the kind of things that like when we first saw this breaking out a few weeks ago. Where the direction we were headed, and we watched a lot of the people that were typically on our side.
They're failing the leadership test.
Let me add. Wait, not that. Oh crap! Where'd you go, Jane? Is she there?
Did she come? Did she go back off?
Oh,
it has canceled.
Oh, I'll let Jane try that. Join again.
Oh man, we could have a really good weekend.
Need a group hug. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the more reason that we're doing this scope is to kind of check in with people who are. There's a lot of people. I don't know if there's a lot of people feeling like Lou and I. I think there are a lot more than we realize. I know Kathy and my friend Jane, who's going to call in. Hey, let me finish this thought, Jane, and then I'll let you talk. But I wanted to do this scope because when this whole thing first broke out a few weeks ago, and we saw how the media was discussing how they were hyping all this up, and then we saw the leaders of the big time social media influences, powerhouses, were kind of joining in that hysteria about the numbers. If 3% of the population gets this and dies, they were comparing that to the number in our population, which
Yvonne and I were saying this, and we were talking about this coming from China, and then filtered through the corporate media that everybody's already been distrusting, but all of a sudden, certain of our leaders it's like they were buying into it.
They were buying into it, and they were all on the same, plane, all with the same talking points, and then calling anybody that disagreed with them just the flu people, which felt like a sucker punch, because I never thought that this was just the flu.
I've been calling that the worst straw man in quite a while.
But anyway, so we feel kind of abandoned by people that we usually follow. I usually would retweet and engage with those people on a daily basis, and I pulled back, I didn't know what was going on, and we needed those guys. We were like the last line of defense for Trump, because Trump is in tune to the MAGA base on Twitter through those guys. He reads those Twitter lines, and when I saw that, my heart sank because I knew the last line of defense fell. But I wanted to do this because I wanted to inspire people, and in the title of this scope, it's fear nothing, pray for everything. And all throughout the Bible, God tells us over and over not to fret, not to worry, and for everything, constantly pray. And that's what we need to be doing. And I don't know why these things have happened, and why the leaders on our, who we thought were on our side are not freaking out about the loss of civil liberties that have come through this shutdown. Joshua 1:6. Hey, Jane. Somebody in the comments posted Joshua 1:6. I don't know what that verse is. I could look it up.
I'll look it up.
Okay. But we should have been putting the pray thing, first on everything. And I think that as Christians, we always have to remind ourselves that this is a spiritual battle.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it's happening that the generals of our movement were on the other side when we needed them most. But it's time for other people to step up. I'm hoping that some of them will see the light and start pressuring the president to open up this country, because
the right is divided, and that's part of what we're, me and Yvonne have been trying to push back on this, on the stuff we've been doing on social media and researching and posting, trying to post information and go, just quit. Like it's, flatten the curve and all these different things, and social distancing and all these phrases that everybody's just taken up like it.
Talking points.
We've always had it. We've always done this. We've always had a thing called social distancing, and I'm telling you, I'm really getting really sick of is that hashtag alone together. That's the most ridiculous crap of all. It's just a succinct
contradiction. First of all,
it really is an example of exactly what's wrong with all of it. Alone together.
Right.
Give me a break.
Do you have that, Jane?
Yes, I do. Joshua 1:6 says, and this is from the Amplified, "Be strong, confident, and of good courage, for you shall cause the people to inherit the land which I swore to their fathers to give them."
Oh, I like that.
That's good.
That is good. That's
good.
Fear nothing.
Good.
That's even stronger and more detailed than fear nothing. I mean, it dives in.
Yeah. Listening to Rush today, it's been, thank God he was back.
Exactly, Marky Mark.
What'd he say?
I'm guessing you're not a big fan of Will Chamberlain right now.
No, and if anybody reads my Twitter knows that I'm not a big fan of
his luster had already started to dim for me anyway, but this just clinched
because he was always a part of cancel culture, and he has a trust fund. His life is not affected by all of
which
this
is
stuff.
Somebody put up. It was Kathy Mustang Girl. She said that all the people that were following in line with this they're not losing in all this. They don't stand to lose.
Right.
They don't have skin in the game. And
right.
Some of them try to make like they do, but they don't.
And Jane does has skin in the game. She has her own business, which has suffered. You want to tell them a little bit about? I mean, you don't have to be specific, but it's definitely affected you and everyone that you were involved with as you see them.
I'm a producer and director and writer, and everything I was working on was canceled. The hotel business is on its back. The restaurant business is on its back. All the people who support conferences and hotels and restaurants are on their back. Even John Podhoretz, Mr. Trump-hating John Podhoretz today, wrote a piece saying somebody has got to think about the long-term consequences of destroying economic health in trying to protect public health, because economic health affects people's lives too. Our lives matter also.
Right. Yeah, this whole idea of who's
essential and non-essential.
In a capitalist society, every job is essential, because those, whether it's a nail salon or whatever, those employees are earning money to pay their bills. And when they're out of work, they can't pay the bills. And a lot of those people they'd be paying bills to are essential workers who keep on working.
Just a ripple effect that we can't even fathom right now.
Right. And Jane and I have been praying that a different set of advice and wisdom.
Sorry.
That's all right. You're probably going to hear mine here shortly. That a different set of information would get to the president, because Steve Mnuchin on the Sunday show was talking about, they had asked him about the 3.3 million unemployment claims. And he said he wasn't really concerned about the numbers, whether they grow larger or smaller. And my jaw dropped. I was like, first of all, that number was on the low side, as we now know, and even the 6.6 million is on the low side. We know it, through Lou.
Yeah.
He was on hold 3 hours and 40 minutes the other day trying to get through, and still hasn't been able to get through in Mississippi. So the fact that Steve Mnuchin said he wasn't really concerned about the numbers, that was disconcerting, because I think that Trump is listening to these people, thinking that, I guess that on April 30th, when they flip the switch back on, that we can just go back to winning. And that's not necessarily the case.
Well, the people in government are insulated, aren't they? And
Right.
the people in media are insulated.
Yeah.
They're
And
sitting there in their nice air-conditioned studios lecturing us.
Right.
And they've got no skin in the game, as you said a minute ago.
Right.
Sorry?
And I was wondering about the non-essential government workers. They're still receiving the paycheck, as far as I know. The non-essential in the private sector are not receiving it. They lose nothing, Kathy said in the comments. They have nothing to lose by being on the side that shuts our country down. And the thing that has shocked me most about those on our side that were for the shutdown is the shutdown was not what concerned me. It was the powers in government that were going to explode exponentially all over the country. You have these little tyrants who have these, have this never let it go. They're pulling the plug on non-essential businesses' power, and if they're opening when they're not.
But in tandem with that, it's the lay down of our people,
right?
Just our citizens, the acceptance of it. And everybody's seeing this. We're seeing people snitch on people, and we're starting to see. Are we going to come up with our own version of the Stasi that East Germany had? And I used to think that we would not be like that in America, and I felt real good about ourselves, and kind of superior to other cultures. But it's a human thing. It doesn't matter what country we're in. If given the opportunity that these government people have taken, these bureaucrats and stuff, there is a big part of the population that will lay down and will start telling on people. And I had two guys in my garage, my front yard last Thursday night. And we were having a couple of beers and just talking, and some truck came by. It was around 11 at night, and somebody I've never seen before, don't know, just started yelling at us about us grouping together in my driveway. And people feeling emboldened to go up to strangers and tell them what pieces of crap they are.
That was in Mississippi, and I know that Jane had mentioned to me about going for a walk in her community, and if you want to tell that little story or not, Jane.
Which one?
I know there's been several. The one where your friend was walking behind the two, and they.
Oh yes, I came out my front door with my dog, and I saw three people in my condo complex walk by, and one of them was walking behind the other two women, and she was wearing a mask. And I said, Kay, why do you have that mask on? And she said, because they won't let me walk with me. Well, they won't let me walk with them unless I wear the mask and walk 10 feet behind them. I said, take that damn mask off. I'll walk with you. And I did. But that just shows you how fearful people are.
Right. But now she's not even walking with you now, right? Is that the one?
Oh, no, that's a different one. Won't even go outside of her house to walk with me outside. She's so afraid.
Yeah. It's sad that the media still has the power to sway so many people, because a lot, I haven't tweeted so much about this, what happened at my job, and I don't want to mention the company. It's a Fortune 500 company, but when this all hit, and I saw the people on our side, caving, and then it was shortly thereafter that the shutdowns and all the social distancing just popped up. Some people even changed their names and their Twitter accounts to social distancing. But my job, due to social distancing policies, they moved me back to a place where I had not worked in 20 years.
That was more crowded.
Put me in, and it was just a depressing situation, and I couldn't have made that without Jane and Kathy and God. But it was just so crazy. So they put me in this different environment, because they're trying to socially distance everyone. But I became, closer to more people than I had been in years. And then the policies put in place there where they have it taped off on the floor, and they have a cafeteria where people can eat, and it said no more than 3 to a table, and everyone was walking around with masks, and they have antibacterial, what do you call that stuff? It slips my mind. To rub on your hands, and so to go to this place, I have to go and park, and then I have to walk about a mile, and then get on a bus that takes me somewhere else. And on the bus, I didn't know they were doing this. You had to sit one to a seat. I didn't know this. So there's this girl sitting there, and I sat down beside her, and she just she was like, oh, we're not supposed to sit next to each other, and got up. And I was just like, at this point, really didn't care about anything. I was just trying to make it through the day. And, but it's like the country everyone is just walking around in this state of fear.
But it's okay to go to the grocery store, which is a petri dish.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
when all this
give me a break.
Yeah. When all this panic broke out, everybody rushed to the store, and I went to the store. I had already had all the things that I needed. I wasn't, I've probably got 3 months food supply anyway, but I was just going to the grocery store, and then everybody in there, I've never seen anything like it. Not a snow day, not anything. And I was like, if we didn't have the virus before this panic broke out, we definitely had it after everybody went to the store.
Yeah.
Yeah. Touching the ATM thing, just being in close contact with people. And it's like, we live in this global world where when this virus broke out in China, there was still travel going on between the East Coast and China. So this virus is not just starting here. It's been here since at least December.
Probably January for sure.
Right. Yeah, I've just been amazed at how easy it is to watch
get
people.
So many people to lay down. And I don't really want to indict churches too much, but I'm disappointed in churches to fall, to just bow down to them. Even before there were even orders here in Mississippi, all the churches shut down and went online. And it's I know the church is not a building, but it is people coming together and encouraging each other physically together. And so that's been tough. And, but I can't say it enough. How many people that are willing to just listen to what they're being told about something
by the experts,
which were always a lot of the same people in my little areas. There's a lot of people that have always mistrusted the media, but now they don't mistrust them so much. They're listening to all this, and I'm like, but this time they're telling the truth, and I'm just.
It can all be a bit discouraging, but I don't want it to discourage us. I want it to be. Yeah. I feel like we're going through a transition to something, and maybe it's the eternal optimism I have as a Christian that, what man meant for evil, God can use for good. I agree. We shouldn't have allowed churches to close. We should have stood our ground. But we're seeing where we have fallen down, and I'm hoping that this can be a lesson because, it's not very often that once you lose these liberties that you get them back, and we're going to have to reclaim them.
But I'm also thinking this could be a great awakening time too, because I think there's always been a silent majority in America that's pretty decent, but I think some people are going to have to stop being silent. I think there's a lot of people that believe the way Vaughn and I do that we can come out of this a bit stronger, and it has broken up some bad stuff. America's kind of been put in a timeout for the bad stuff we've been doing. So what do we do with the reset going forward? What do we do going forward and holding people accountable, especially our elected officials?
Yeah, Jane.
Isn't it about time we put I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go ahead. Finish your thought.
I was going to say, isn't it about time we put a demand on our leaders to represent the rest of us?
Right.
Yes.
I know in our Constitution here in Tennessee that it's written in the Constitution that we not only have a right to instruct our leaders, we have a duty to instruct our leaders. I need to find that clause in our Constitution and tweet that out to everyone and the governor, who I'm now referring to Chairman Lee until he starts, acting like.
We have a bunch of little Chairman Mao's all over the country. Whether they're doing it because they're being pressured, they don't want to go against it anymore, or however way they're doing it, they're taking liberties away, and they're,
And I don't know where the big guns on our side that aren't, screaming from the rooftops about it, but we have to step up and do that if they're not. Mustang Girl. So Kathy, who lives in Ohio, her Governor DeWine is in dictator mode now. And what's he threatening, Kathy? Oh, and Jane, our governor is saying till April 30th, but DeWine in Ohio, I think, is saying till May. Kathy can correct me.
Yeah, and Ralph Northern in Virginia is saying June, or whatever the day after the Republican.
Yeah, June 10th is what he.
Yeah, June 10th. Give me a break. Come on.
Yeah, it's absurd. But Adam Townsend, if you're not following him on Twitter, it's just at Adam Townsend, I think. He's been saying the whole time, when they came out and said 2 weeks, he said it's going to be 2 more weeks every 2 weeks. He said
and that's going to be the new thing, is ask me in 2 weeks for everything.
Right.
Until we put a demand on our leaders.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
To stop
I was going to say they're going to do it.
So I guess the question is, how do we best do that?
Yeah. And maybe we could brainstorm that. How the president is the one great thing about this president and through Twitter. Adam Scrabble.
Paul, that's it.
You need to be following him, because he's just a grounded, asking smart questions. He wasn't saying that the coronavirus was or wasn't real. His point was, do we have any models on what our country is going to look like after you've shut down a $22 trillion economy and lives lost?
DeWine said through August yesterday.
August? DeWine said through August. Wow.
And he's a Republican governor, isn't he?
Is he GOP? Jane?
Yes.
Wow.
GOP.
That's the other thing. So besides the powerhouses of social media, the influencers on Twitter going in that direction, I know that Republican leaders, they're not up to par. We haven't been in the dark about that. We know that they are not really what we need in these times. But I had no idea that they would go along with something. If you had told me that, I wouldn't have believed you. But we have to find a way somehow. That was my train of thought about how the great thing about Twitter, and Twitter is what helped Trump get elected, and a lot of the social media influencers helped him along. He does tune in and tap into that and to get a feel for where the base is. And he always listened, so that when things like when they wanted to put, 200,000 troops on the ground in Syria, we went to war against that on Twitter, and he relented. So, and we've seen that over the last few years, where Trump would do something and his base would be outraged. And over a period of a few days, he would adjust course. And that, we didn't get a chance for that to happen here, because all of our leaders were on board, with Trump not challenging him, saying, yeah, we need to shut down.
Holly just said GOP group of pushovers.
Yeah.
What was it? Polly Baba?
Yeah.
Gopi was a group of pushovers. I've actually been likening the GOP, the establishment GOP from really county level up, it's just a bunch of people with Stockholm syndrome. I think they're more comfortable in a minority position just so they can go along. And
yeah.
I think like Mitch McConnell, I think Mitch McConnell enjoys life more as a minority leader, because he still controls.
Right, but he doesn't get the blame when things go wrong. And Jane, I don't know if you remember here in Tennessee when we have all 3 houses, but when the Tea Party was going strong, and we were going up there basically with our pitchforks, we didn't know how to interact with them. You had to learn how to play their game. But before we learned how to do that, one of the Republican leaders told one of our guys, well, you see, the problem here is there's not enough Democrats, and because they got more done. And it blew my mind. I was like, so when they're in the majority and they've got, just like when we had all three branches, the first 2 years of this president, they didn't get half of what needed to be done.
That makes
Yes,
sense.
I remember. It occurs to me what runs through our whole discussion is fear.
Right.
The
Yeah.
politicians are afraid of donors. They're afraid of the media. They're afraid of making tough decisions. They're afraid of not going along with emotional appeals. The populists are afraid because they're afraid to go outside. They're afraid to buck
Mm-hmm.
the system. They're afraid people will think
Right.
they're crazy. They're afraid they'll think people will consider them to be conspiracy theorists. So
Right.
we're locked down in this cycle of fear, which is demonic. Let's face it. God did not give us a
Mm-hmm.
spirit of fear, but
Right.
of power and of love and of a sound mind.
Amen.
Fear is not an emotion. It's a spirit.
Right.
And yet, when we bow down to it, we've taken God off the throne and we are worshiping that evil spirit. And it's rampant. It's why Republicans can't suck it up and make the
Mm-hmm.
tough
Right.
decisions that they need to make. And it's why
Right.
we don't come out with our pitchforks and face down those who
Yeah.
are in
Right.
authority that we can make a demand upon. But I guess that's what we
Right.
need to be attacking.
I think
Yeah.
their main weapon or their main sword is shame. They're gonna.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be
Yes.
shamed into being called, being labeled certain things, and they can't. If you are in truth, there is nothing to be ashamed of, and you don't need. If you're in God and in truth, you don't have to be ashamed. But I've been
That's
guilty of
right.
it myself. There's a lot of people that do follow Christ, but it's still natural in a way that they're going to have that fear, but that shame. That's what they've been doing for decades, and nobody wants to be labeled something bad.
Right.
Right.
Um,
Can you imagine
is
if we had to win the Second World War with this state of mind we're in now? Unbelievable.
I know.
I would worry about the Spanish American War. That would be a tough one,
Well,
or even
good point.
even against Mexico before World War. But with Pancho, we probably could have taken on Pancho Villa.
Hey, Kathy, you can go ahead and call in. I'll keep Jane on.
Yeah, we can have both of you on at the same time.
Yeah, Kathy is part of. She's been a part of the MAGA movement from the beginning, and she was one of the ones feeling like Lou and I a bit rudderless on Twitter and not being able to go to the normal.
The normal division commanders that are AWOL right now.
They're not AWOL. They're just.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
no,
they're
they're
AWOL
not
on this.
on our issue.
Yeah, and I don't want to use this as a platform to divide or call anybody out. They have every right to espouse whatever opinions they want. But I would have thought that this, and especially now as we see it all unfolding and the tyrannical state of all these different mayors and governors, that they would have been. This is the fight. I mean, our country.
And it's been the fight for, we've been at war for a few decades, but a lot of us didn't know and we weren't fighting back. And there are more people fighting back, but we've been in a war, a spiritual war for a long time. And it's just getting more front and people still aren't seeing it, but we have been at war and the casualties aren't, you're not going to see blood and you're not going to see arms, blown
Right.
off. But it's going to be people's minds.
Right. And Kathy, who lives in Ohio, and her family owns her own, it's a trucking company, right, Kathy? Can you hear me, Kathy? I don't know. Do I have to do something?
No, it should be.
I don't know if she can hear me.
Give it a little bit of time. Maybe.
Hey, Kathy, can you hear me? You could put it in the comments. I don't know what I'm doing. I see you up there on the screen.
Be on.
Do you need to drop me off to get her on?
No, you should be able to have both of you.
I think she's hung up. She might call back.
She's going to come back in.
But anyway, Kathy with me was, really discouraged by the leaders on our side who are off on a different tangent, and I actually have gotten a lot of DMs and tweets about the same thing, about what is going on, and thanking me for for my Twitter account, people that I didn't even know were following me and also following these other people. But anyway, Kathy she owns a trucking company, and right now I think they're fine. I think she had tried getting some of the small business loans or whatever, and then she was having a hard time doing that. And that's another thing I hear is a lot of people. It's supposed to be really easy to get these loans, and it turns out not to be true. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see if Kathy calls back. We'll go on, but Kathy joined. Let's see. She's joined in Periscope. Okay. Hello, Daniel. But I think Jane's right that we need to find a way that the president will hear us, because that's one of the great things about this president is when he hears from his base, he will adjust course, and we've all got to figure out a way, whether it's calling the White House comment line every day. It says I'm not allowing guests. That's not true because I've got Jane on.
And that's the icon's open.
And the icon's open.
I wonder if Periscope's doing something to us. We got too much enlightenment and good news going.
Wait, see, it's Caesar.
We can't have that.
Invite.
Let's see if we can invite.
I lost my faces. Okay, see if we hit another button to see if we can invite guests. See if it does anything. So that's invite guests. You choose. Okay. Let's see.
Well, you figure that out. Let me just comment that per your point, Yvonne, Trump, when he finds out something, moves on it instantly. It only took less than an hour yesterday for him to find out that 3M was not answering orders for face masks because their primary distributors were sending them overseas to other countries. And I mean, within an hour, he had a little chat with the powers that be at 3M. Right. And all of a sudden, America was their first priority. What a concept.
Right.
Did you notice that 3M had a statement about that? In one part of the statement, they said him actually doing this will actually lessen the amount holding them to account. They said that this move, by making them keep the mask in the U.S., will actually lower the amount of masks available because of the trade and other countries shipping to here. And I'm like, whatever. That's antithetical. That doesn't make sense.
That's propaganda.
And it's 3M, if people don't know, is Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. I don't believe that it's been probably decades since most of their assets and structure was even in the U.S. at all.
Well, that's an interesting point. That's a good Google exercise.
Yeah.
Well, also, that segment was on Tucker, so I'm assuming that's how Trump found out about it. Well, I'm hoping
maybe we need to get Tucker's attention.
Tucker's attention on Fauci and Birx.
Kathy's rebooting.
Okay, so Kathy's going to reboot. Here's a tweet from White House reporter for Washington Post. White House officials have refused to explain how they came up with the 100K to 240K coronavirus death toll estimate, nor have they provided underlying data so others can assess its reliability. Jane, notice how they'll say White House officials have refused. That when the White House was dependent on Birx and Fauci and the CDC for these numbers.
Right.
So you see how they're trying to direct blame to the White House and not the experts.
Right. This is what happens when you put your faith in experts.
Right. Anybody can say they're an expert, but
I actually told somebody yesterday on Twitter that I'm going to buy a couple of lab coats because I'm going to start a new career.
We could actually,
depending on what's happening at the time, I'm just going to put a lab coat on and start telling people.
You know what we could do for our Ides scope is put on a lab coat, become experts, and then, discuss everything and like.
And I'll get some glasses when I want to talk about the economy.
Well, yeah, but you got to have a stethoscope also.
Yeah.
Well,
lab coat is a stethoscope.
My wife is in the healthcare industry, and so I do have access to the medical devices that Obama put a tax on back under Obamacare.
That's all you need. Yeah,
So I
like
do
face
have
masks.
I have
Yeah.
the blood pressure equipment
Bill
and the
Gates
stethoscope,
mini.
and
Yeah.
I got it. I was saying something like that. Fauci is the Bill Gates mini me. I was saying something like that before
Yeah.
we came on the scope. Is Trump steps aside, and then this little short pipsqueak comes up to the podium and starts telling us how long the country's going to be shut down.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Till the
remember
12th of never.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 12th never. I'm
Oh,
going to
it's
steal
going to be
that.
December 79th.
When they first broke out with this, and it was going to be 2 weeks, the estimates were, 1 million to 2 million were going to die. And then when they extended it and they came back, then it was 100K to 200K.
And you never get the start date of the 2 weeks.
Right.
What's the start date?
Yeah, because we're past it. We're way past the start date. And then, so a lot of, and if you're on Twitter and you're in the know, you probably already know this. But if you're out there and you're looking for accounts that have been really good on this, Jesse Kelly, he's at Jesse.
He's been awesome.
At Jesse Kelly DC, and then Buck Sexton has been real good. It's kind of there's so few people that I've been able to turn to that. The hashtag Film Your Hospital, if you're aware of that. I mean,
but Adam Townsend's been real good because his tweets and his threads are strictly, facts and asking questions, and
Right.
he's not tilting in either way.
Right.
And another really good one is Huntsman at Huntsman.
Oh yeah, Huntsman's good.
He's got some great. He's really good at supply chain stuff.
There's
Rich Higgins is awesome.
Yeah, Rich Higgins. I think is it Rich Higgins DC. I think he's DC also. There's not many places you can turn to. But that's okay because it's up to us to get these truths out and it's up to us to make sure that the president hears from us. So the White House comment line, you can call, you can email, and also I think it's very important that you call your governors. Governors need to hear.
That's where all the anti-Bill of Rights stuff is really happening, is at the governor level.
Right. How about that 10th Amendment? We don't seem to be falling back on that when they could. But the film your hospital hashtag has been real interesting. Do you know about that hashtag, Jane?
I do. In fact,
Okay.
the first one of those I saw was Todd Starnes, who
Yeah,
lives.
Todd Starnes has been really good too.
Yeah, and he filmed his hospital right in his neighborhood, and
wow,
it
yeah.
looked like 2 a.m. on a Tuesday morning.
Yeah. That's been the thing about all of these, even in New York, where they're supposedly being overrun. There's some people in New York who have gone, and they're talking to the people coming and going from the hospital, whether it be a janitor or a doctor or a nurse, and none of them have any information that would back up what the media is reporting is going on there. And as you know, CBS got busted for releasing fake footage that was actually from Italy and acting like it was, some overrun hospital in New York. They're laying off people in Boston hospitals right now because it's so full.
Wow.
And that's a great point. That's a great point because there's another thread by Seth Davis of the Federalist. And it's all these different locations in different states where these different medical centers are they're furloughing people because the so-called elective surgery, all that stuff has gone away because they're anticipating the huge COVID-19 Wuhan stuff. And so there's been an argument put forth today that I've seen a lot that makes sense to me, is that this lockdown is actually lowering our capacity to deal with, disease, sickness and stuff, because a lot of these places are shutting down because there's no business and they don't have revenue.
And also when you shut everything down and you don't have people driving to and from work, you're not having car accidents, which you could argue, yes, that's a good thing. But there's a lot of things we wouldn't normally be dealing with in these hospitals because we're all shut down. But in the meantime, you're destroying the economy and people are losing their jobs who aren't going to have health care. And we're praying that President Trump will start hearing that he's got to stop listening to these so-called experts and if he wants to tap into the MAGA base and how they're feeling, that he might want to check out some other accounts than what he's typically used to. Hey, Kathy, can you call in? Do you see the button? My commute has been pretty odd. Yeah, Paulie says his commute to work it's telling me microphone only. I think that's okay. Do you see the smiley faces? And yeah, that's another thing. The WHO is basically Chinese propaganda. And,
Yes.
and Tucker did an expose on that Tedros guy or whatever his name.
Tedros, I forget what his last name is.
Yeah, I can't pronounce. Oh, you know what? His name reminds me of ad hominem, but it's like ad hominem or something like that. Hopefully Trump is getting a clue on the WHO and that, and the fact that Dr. Fauci praises that guy. It says you aren't allowing guests to. Okay, hold on.
I wonder if we take this off.
Okay.
Moving your guest, please.
That's interesting.
I wonder why it's doing that.
Try to bumper off.
I wonder if I just
block and hang. No, don't block. Just put hang up. Sorry, you guys.
How about if I jump off and then come back on later? If I jump off, maybe she can get on.
Okay, we'll try that. All right, so. All right, has anything changed on the screen, Kathy? Well, hold on. It just will not hang up. Hold on.
Why is it doing that? So she's joined again.
There was an error. You know what? They don't want us talking to Kathy for some reason.
Because she would be a little bit of fire too.
See, we were able to join her.
She came right back on.
Yeah, I don't know what the problem is, Kathy. We may do a separate scope. Oh well.
Well, I didn't intend to do that. Just so you know, in trying to watch and listen, there's a giant gap between the sound and the movement of your faces. So I think
really?
We've got some technical difficulties going on here.
Well, if anybody used to using Periscope knows that there's a lot of glitches in their system. So I hate that, but what else was going to tell you about? So back to that film your hospital hashtag. So when that thing first broke out, so that's going on basically running parallel at the same time. Mainstream media is trying to freak everybody out about overrun hospitals in New York. Were there overrun hospitals anywhere else? I can't remember.
I think there were some in like Ohio or Indiana or something maybe.
So that was going on, and then
Washington State.
Film your hospital pops up, and everybody starts going, and the truth gets out. So then the officials in New York, they updated or corrected themselves and said, well, we're not seeing as many patients, but the ones that are coming are sicker.
Yeah.
And that was funny to me because what happened there? Yeah, Candace Owens. That's another man. She's been wonderful.
Been good on this. Well, Michelle Malkin. She's been holding the CDC to the fire with the good articles about what they like to do.
But so when the fact that they came out and corrected and said, well, we're not being as overwhelmed, but they're coming in sicker, showed me that put them on defense. And so we on social media and Twitter who were doing that film your hashtag, whether it was the people going and filming it or you people out there sharing it, that has an effect, and that's the battlefield, of this new generation of warfare. It's a war of information.
And people out here, us regular folks going about, we used to going about doing our jobs and take care of our families, but we have discernment too, and we shouldn't sell ourselves short and not just acquiesce and look up to people that we don't know, that we've never met, and just take them at face value and use your own judgment and don't sell yourself short.
Right.
A lot of people out here have some smarts and they know what's right and what's wrong just innately. And if you're looking at truth or whether you're not seeing truth, and a lot of people I believe can tell when they're being lied to. So don't sell yourself short on this, and don't just bow down to some guy on the show with
because he's got a white lab coat.
And there's a Chiron saying expert in such and such.
What else is going to tell you? The Candace Owens. Did you see the story she broke today, Jane?
I didn't. No.
Yeah, it was. So
there was a governor.
There was a story. Ned, what's his name? The governor of Connecticut, Ned something. had tweeted about it, the first infant death it said linked
to
to
COVID-19.
COVID. So Candace had tweeted out that she had information that this isn't true, and she did a short Periscope. You can go on her Twitter and find this, but she did a short Periscope. So people close to that family reached out to her. So here's basically what happened. And she didn't want to give specifics, but she said it's akin to this. Your baby dies by an accident drowning in the swimming pool. And then when it gets to the hospital, they test the baby for corona, and the baby has it. And so they call it a COVID-19 linked death when the baby died of an accident.
And just using tragedy.
And that was the governor.
For the narrative.
That was the governor. So
Is it
there's
Malloy?
so much. Yeah, is it Malloy? Ned?
No,
it's Ned something.
No.
It's like
It
a
doesn't
short
matter.
last name. I can't remember.
Yeah,
No,
it doesn't matter. Yeah. There's so
But
much.
that counting system is typical of
Yeah.
what's going on in Italy.
Right.
Yeah,
And
and it's
in
happening
Spain.
here too. And that's the thing is, even with these deaths
Oh,
that
wow.
aren't really COVID, even with those in the figures, it's still not this terrible thing they're saying.
So Daniel in the comments says, and Daniel, are you in London? He says his aunt is in the hospital, has had 2 tests in 24 hours. The first was negative and the second was positive. And that's another big question on these tests. How accurate are these tests? And then there's an incentive now to classify these deaths. You know, these governors who are going to get more money, the more deaths they have. So now there's an incentive attached to making sure that they died of COVID-19.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that story that started coming out. The deaths in Italy was actually only 12% of those deaths recorded were actually because of.
Right.
I need to keep calling it Wuhan. I don't like this COVID-19 stuff. And I also wonder
I
whatever
call it the
happened to
Chinese
COVID.
Communist Party virus.
Yeah.
But
That's a good.
I haven't ever found an answer to whatever happened to COVID 1 through 18. And I know 20 is probably coming in the fall.
Yeah.
You can count on it.
Right. Yeah, everybody was looking and using Italy as a worst case scenario. And what people need to understand.
When she said Mustang Girl, she said, and their air pollution is a factor.
Yeah.
Remember about the epidemic. You know, did you people, I don't know if you knew this, Jane.
Jane's
she might
gone.
have disconnected.
Jane can call back if you want.
She
joined. She's gonna come back. But what were you gonna say?
I didn't know this until today, and me and Yvonne looked it up. It's very easy to see. There's a department in the CDC. It's called the Epidemic.
Oh, I think I've got the
Epidemic Investigations. It's EIS.
I got it right here. I thought the Epidemic Intelligence Service.
Epidemic Intelligence Service, and these guys went. First of all, they were involved in 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
They were formed in 1951, so they've been around for a while. But Epidemic Intelligence Service, it's a division of the CDC. And they went to Wuhan, and now they're looking for a virus, and they just totally discounted the terror because they have terrible air pollution.
Sounds like medical CIA.
Yeah. But
can you call back in? Will it let you? I wonder if Periscope doesn't like our
They might not.
Wow.
But guys, look that up. Epidemic Intelligence Service. I had no idea.
You Google it, and the first link is CDC.
And they had to cancel a conference that was coming up in May.
Strange. See George Woe on YouTube. Okay, there. Jane will be back. Jane, have you heard of the Epidemic Intelligence Service?
Just counting down. There we go.
I'm sorry, were you asking me something?
Yeah. Have you heard of the Epidemic Intelligence Service?
No, is that something new?
It's part of the CDC.
It's not new. It's a branch of the CDC.
Formed in 1951.
Yeah, they were going to hold a conference on May 4th to the 7th, which has been canceled because of coronavirus. But Epidemic Intelligence Service doesn't sound creepy at all, does it?
I don't get it.
Oh, not at all.
Just so many things we're finding out. I didn't realize that the government had the power to shut down our country. And the truth of us,
Well, they have it because we have ceded it.
Yeah,
to
that's
them.
the thing. People say, well, we have the Constitution and we have all these rights, but I don't know what's going on with Periscope. Doesn't like.
Doesn't like the subject, I guess.
Yeah. But the Constitution is just a piece of paper.
It's only as strong
It's
as
weird.
us.
Man, I hate that. Yeah, so the Constitution doesn't enforce itself, and I think that's what I want people to know. So when the governor of Tennessee is talking about how people they're not,
According to the data,
we aren't sheltering in
Tennesseans
place.
are not sheltering the way they should be. That's got to tip people off.
I'm sorry. So Kathy's not the only one that can't join in. For some reason, Jane has the magic ticket and she can join in.
There's the countdown.
Can you hear me, Jane? Okay.
It found again.
I don't know what's going on, but but we were just saying that the Constitution is, it's just a piece of paper, and we're gonna add Lupe Williams. Let's see if that works.
You can join.
It's just a piece of paper, they'll do what they can get away with. It's the people. That's the whole thing about We the People, that you have to stand up and claim your rights. They're not just going to do the right thing.
They gave us a republic if we can keep it.
Yeah.
Madam, if you can keep it. Yes.
Madam. And he said it to a woman who supposedly at the time did not have voting rights, strangely enough. Felipe, are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me, Felipe?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I keep getting drop-offs.
I can.
I'm sure part of it may be what we said, that somebody doesn't like us, and part of it may be that the internet is seriously overwhelmed or something.
Yeah, it is, because everybody's at home on the internet. I don't know. We've had a lot of trouble with Periscope with so many issues that don't make sense.
Well, like usually when we do our monthly, it'll show, we've got 20 viewers, and then when we get off, it showed that we had 1,200. When you look at the stats, and so
Yes.
I think they do things to try to discourage you, so you just kind of don't look at the numbers and just realize God's going to get, let whatever happen.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing.
Yeah,
we
I
can
don't
do
understand
about it,
the numbers.
Yeah,
Yep.
we can hear you. I stopped worrying about
Okay,
numbers because of what they do. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm always surprised at this point that they even let us be on, and I wanted to get that OBS system so that it would also tie into other like YouTube and whatever else. I forget what all is available with those other like OBS systems, but I've just stayed out of convenience with Periscope.
Right.
But the main thing that I just wanted to say about all of this is it seems that we're all having to do a lot of second guessing, and we see things that are incongruent. Certain people say this, other people say that. If you see any of the networks, which I don't, I know they're saying something different. I told my mom the other day, I said, where did you get that information? And she is surfing, so she'll see something on the regular networks and something else on something like Fox. And I'm just wanting to encourage everybody that the interesting thing about, and this is throughout all history, there is this thing that may be politically incorrect. Of course, Jesus Christ controls history. And that's hard to deal with, because you say, well, why did he let this happen? And, I think right now there's a purging going on. What do you think about that?
Exactly.
We were just saying that. A purging, and at the same time, a great revealing.
Which is an evangelical tool. It's very interesting now.
Right. And a lot of times, before, the great awakenings in this country, there was, there first had to be a great revealing in order for that to happen. And I kind of feel like that might be what's going on.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier on I wrote down about Leviticus 26.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also in Deuteronomy, and I don't remember specifically if it's Deuteronomy 28 or whatever. But if you go to Leviticus 26, it'll actually, cross-reference to Deuteronomy, wherever it is. There are 5 cycles of discipline and that come to a nation like ours, a client nation, a nation that is blessed by God in particular. And there's usually only one, if you guys are tracking with me, there's only one in history at a time. So
Right.
when it was Jerusalem, it started there, and then it went over to Rome, and then it went over to different countries in Europe. And then eventually it came across to the New World, and we've been this, quote, client nation. So
Right.
when it gets too out of whack for God's timetable, then discipline comes.
Right.
And fortunately, those of us who try to understand God because we're interested and then we believe in him and want to know more about him, we get more and more data and we learn how to think, so how to think objectively or more objectively.
Right.
And I
Right.
also noticed that, and it's a fact, we get blessed and we get all kinds of, whatever you want to call it, forewarning of things. And so we do better in these weird situations. And for example, when Israel got destroyed and people either got killed or taken off to Babylon or whatever, that what they used to call biblically the remnant of mature believers, they continued to prosper in a weird kind of way. In the way
Right.
of, for example, under discipline, when during World War II, like my family was in Belgium, they still had good times and good things going on while they were having all of their white linens, tablecloths, whatever, taken away by the Germans so that they could cover up
Right.
their equipment in the snow. And the
Right.
family still had a pretty good time. And that's why I thought I'm being blessed out of my tree. And I mentioned it on my scopes that I can't believe
Right.
that I'm able to do so well while I should be screaming at the top of my lungs in the street, help, help, I'm in panic
Right.
mode.
Right.
And I'm not. Let's
Amen.
see, what does it say? This is what God wants us to hear. No, not fear and
Yeah.
no fear. Yeah, what we need to know, like I said in Joshua 1, that whole chapter where it keeps repeating God to Joshua saying, be strong and courageous. Remember, be strong and courageous. Well,
All right, Dan.
of course we're upset that things are very twisted and perverted in the real sense of that word, to twist. So
Right.
that's scary, but at the same time, we can have objectivity and stay focused and do the best we can and do well. But the thing is, I
Right.
keep encouraging people, the word of God is alive and powerful, Hebrews 4:12.
Yeah.
So get to know it better and better. And if you're stuck in the house and you're ticked off because you don't want to watch the same
Yeah.
movie over again or the same news over again, grab a book or one of these forms of the Bible, because there's so many now, and we can
Right.
really be happy. And, like you guys, there you are, you're blessed, you're together, you're hanging in
Yeah.
there. I'm by myself, but I joke that my family is, for example, musical instruments and equipment and whatnot.
Right.
And I have a joke about how I've got so many guitars, and instead of having children, I say they're just as much maintenance. I have to do
Right.
string changing and neck cleaning and who knows what. And so you can still have a great day, but we've got to stay focused because you have to take care of yourself first. And if you don't, you're going to get sick or have a problem. And it is
Right.
ugly out there, but I think it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better.
Amen.
But like I
Yeah.
said, does that mean I'm going to be having more fun before it's over? Because I keep having a
Yeah.
better
Yeah.
time, even though it's crazy. What does this one say? I'm doing
Right.
blackout. Yeah, that's funny.
Right.
But you don't want to black out
Yeah.
completely. You do have to stay a little bit aware,
Yeah.
I would say we can count as blessing that the discipline we're going through right now is not worse, considering what our country's been doing
Right.
the last few decades. And I think it's an opportunity for a reset, and it could be a whole lot worse.
Yeah.
Well, and it might get a
yeah.
whole lot worse. It might
Yeah.
it might go there. I'm not going to be surprised if 4 or 19 months from now, there's a full-on, more tactical war going on, like the way World War II, there were the Allied forces and the Axis. And all of a sudden, you could see China and Russia team up. People don't realize Russia has a population of 150 million people.
Right.
Okay, we have almost 400 million or something like that.
Yeah.
And you always say, wow, I thought they must have zillions of people because they're
Right.
such a big country. I said, no, they have zillions of military.
Yeah.
Right.
And China
And
is
China.
that much worse. In the 80s,
Right.
when I was in the naval security group, working as a flying crypto linguist, you know, with the highest clearances possible, we knew
Wow.
that Korea was the fourth largest infantry, and I'm talking about North Korea.
Oh yeah,
Fourth-
that was for decades. They had one of the
fourth
largest standing
largest
armies in the world.
infantry in the
Wow.
world. And you'd
Mhm.
say, what? I mean, I can see Russia and China, but North Korea?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's
They're
one of the things I can
militarized.
say. I'd like to add, I think I've said it on my scopes, that it's interesting that for 3 years, notice that this didn't happen 2 months after George W. Bush took office and an F-8 collided with an A3. Oh, I'm sorry, a P3.
Right.
And that administration was brand new and all over the place, had no cohesiveness. This administration, there are strong believers, powerful, objective leaders in, you know, places that we don't know that are helping. And that's when we say, yeah, they're helping the president.
Exactly.
What is all this stuff going on? How does he get objectivity? I think he's got a wall of fire around him. And,
Yeah.
you know, God is using him in ways that we couldn't have even imagined when he was running for president. And we were wondering, who is this guy? I mean, as far as what are we going to get?
Right.
So I think
Hello.
there are a lot coming, and there's a lot of discipline coming. So which side of the fence are you on? You know, what are we going to get?
One of my followers. You want to say hi? This is my daughter, Michaela, who's been out of work for how
My
long?
niece.
Say hi. Hey, Michaela, do you know anybody that has died from the coronavirus?
No.
Do you know anybody that's lost a job?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I hear from everyone is they don't know anybody that's died from coronavirus, but they know plenty of people who have lost a job. But I think you're right, Felipe, that good things are on the horizon, but it may get worse before it's better.
And that would be a purging in a great way.
Right,
Yeah.
But it's like
and
that,
it was
you know,
necessary.
right,
It's like when you pray for God for something, but you get something else because God knows what you need in the first place. And so sometimes you get something unexpected. You prayed for something, but you get something different because God actually, in perfection, knows what you should be getting.
And that is, he answered our prayer, you know, and he answered it the better way than we even thought.
right. And I think it's no accident that all throughout the Bible, he tells us constantly not to fret, not to worry, not to be in fear, but to pray constantly. And I've had to remind myself this week as I went through. Kathy knows I struggled last week. It was a week and a half. It was, I felt like I'd been hit by a train, and everything that I had trusted and to help me get through things like this had let me down, except for God. But then I had to just regroup and remind myself that I'm not supposed to fret.
That's right. Amendment of bench. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to fret and be, you know, upset
Trusting.
while we're supposed to be strong and courageous.
Right. Right.
The dichotomies there.
We did.
It's interesting that God says, you can be concerned and you can come to me with your concerns. But if you're not confident, and that's why I say that Greek word, I love the word elpis. It means, in English, so many times you see it in Bibles, it says hope. And I said, well, does that mean like the expression, whoa, I don't know, but I hope so? That's all
Right.
wrong. Because in Greek, if you look it up in the lexicon, it says confident expectation.
Yeah.
So when you say we hope that God will, you know, intervene here, I'm saying it with confident expectation.
Right, right. It's not hope in like, oh, let me flip this coin and hope, I win the the coin flip. It's the trusting and believing that it will happen. It's definitely not the hope.
The wishy-washy one.
Some things are lost in translation. Yeah. It's faith. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
definitely
confident
all about
expectation through faith. The faith that you
Right.
have instead of being a baby faith, that's the other great analogy. Children at birth and in the growing years start out with a lot of faith because they don't have anything else, so they just believe. And
Right.
my neighbor is trying to come in here. I'm gonna have to tell her to
Oh,
to come back.
you're social. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
tell
we gotta
her to
do-
socially distance herself.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Peggy. All right,
Believe.
she's turning around.
Yeah,
See
Lou
you,
and I are
Peggy.
not practicing social distancing right
How
now.
about that
Yeah.
for there's social distancing? But my neighbor Peggy has about 75 chickens, and she's always bringing
Oh,
me
awesome.
eggs, and then now she just brought me a gallon water bottle, saying, "Is this the kind you're talking about? You want water?" And I said, "Yeah, I must have now about 12 of those gallon water bottles in the garage that are going to be good if the water main goes out, and then you want to make some hot water to wash your hands and your face."
Yeah, that's
but
awesome.
yes, this was a great example of neighbors, loving one another, right? The love your neighbor. That's
Yeah.
Peggy. So
I think that's another thing that's going on right now. Is like we're connecting with people. I am considered essential, and so I'm off today, but I'll be going to work tomorrow. But driving through the neighborhood, I see families outside and adults and children and all the dogs and it's an unusual sight. And I was thinking it shouldn't be an unusual sight. So I think God is using this. And that there's a lot of
For
unintended
people to get in
consequences.
touch with their neighbors and stuff. A guy I was listening to yesterday was talking about how people, you're worried about the mark of the beast and you won't be able to engage in commerce and currency and stuff. But he said, I don't think it says anything about barter and trade. And
Right.
so that's how you would sustain yourself is your neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do think there's a lot of unintended consequences that are coming out of this that are going to be good. And though I still think that and hope that Trump will stop listening to his so-called experts, because I don't think his experts are on the same side. And I've written a blog post about it. It's at redpillsentinel.com if you want to read it. Nothing but facts.
Tell us what is the actual site again?
It's Red Pill Sentinel with an S, SENTINEL.com. And the first story on there is about Dr. Birx, Fauci,
And the WHO.
Oh yeah,
basically.
and yeah, and I've got factual stuff there, and my only goal in writing that was that it would make it to the president's eyes somehow. I surely believe stranger things have happened. Thank you, Kathy. It's short, and I tried to keep it short and sweet as best I could, because on this topic of the corruption in the swamp and things like World Health Organization, you can just get lost in the minutia of so many details. But I tried to make it concise with 3 different points. But the people that are surrounding Trump right now are snakes, but I also believe that Trump is God's anointed man. So I know at the same time that God has got this. But I can still pray that the information and truth will reach him. I think that's happened many times throughout this term.
Well, there's a divine chessboard.
That's right.
And that chessboard right now looks like he's surrounded by the other side, and they're trying to jump him. But that has happened before, but not with Trump. It has in small ways, but not in major ways. And I'm thinking if the reason that Trump is in office, remember, Hillary won. Right. She had, 3 million more votes, popular vote than he did. So I always tell everybody, remember, Hillary won, but Trump is in the White House. So what's that all about? And
Yeah.
I like General Markey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and I don't know enough about the other guys to know what's going on, but I think that if you
Bingo.
look at what must it be like on the military side, so from the Pentagon angle, what is it like in his cabinet? And then what are the other things that are going on with him personally, the president,
Right.
that would make it so that, as usual, kind of like in a good movie, where everything looks bad, and then here comes the hero that's been trying to get there in the background somewhere. Kind of like you said, if he could read
Right.
that particular, you know, post that you
Article.
put up.
Right.
The idea is that at the right moment, oh, it's kind of like in Star Wars too, at the end when the guy says, oh, you know, Luke, you know, what was the phrase that he used
Use the
about
force.
yeah, the force, you know, remember the force. And then he closes his eyes and pushes the button, you know. That's the
Right.
kind of thing that can happen if it needs to. I don't know if it needs
Right.
to, but like you said,
Right.
the snakes are all around and the witches and whatever you want to call it, because of the witch hunts, right?
Right.
There've got to be witches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're everything that the left
That's
and
true.
the dark side, whatever you want to call all that stuff, tries to do will literally, come on, this has to be funny, will literally
Right.
be trumped,
Hmm.
you know.
Well, you can call them demons because some of our words have the demon. Pandemonium,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like
pandemic. I mean,
yeah,
all these words.
pandemonic.
And
All
you
these
know what
words have
pan
demon
means,
in it.
right?
I
Pan
know
is
that it has a
Pan.
negative.
it's the
Is a
plural
god.
of pos. No, it's the plural of pos. And
Oh,
pos
okay.
is one of the forms, like in English, when we say a word that's a verb and it's like in a present tense, you know, like you have the word bring. And then you can say, oh, and I can make it a gerund or a participle, and it'll have like bringing. And then I can make it past tense, and it's brought or has
Right.
brought, you know, pluperfect. There's all
This
these
is true.
grammar things. Well, when you look at pos, that means all, and you put it in certain forms, like I used to think about the airlines, Pan American.
Yeah.
It meant all the Americas originally, you know,
Right.
so North America, Canada, the United States, Central America, South America. And that was the idea behind Pan American Airlines. So when, like you said, pandemic and all these other pan words, it's dealing with all.
Yeah.
And that's why I said getting into languages makes things really interesting because you
Yeah.
start seeing details.
Yeah.
And
Well,
go
words
ahead
mean-
on that thought.
Words mean things, and yeah, it's just like a lot of these cliches that have come out of this from the mainstream media and our governors on this whole shutdown are disturbing. Okay, social distancing, hashtag alone together. Everything is about keeping us apart. And
By the way, did
I
you
don't want. I
think
don't want
about
to.
where those words come from? Meaning, did they come from the, let's call it the right, or did they come from the left? Who started using those words? Is this, you know, social media propaganda where they're going to use that word? Because every time I see those words, I'm thinking, who came up with that?
I know,
Mm-hmm.
but see, that was one of the first the things that caught my eye was those new terms, and then people on our side
Using them like
use
they've
them.
always been out there.
Yeah, and that just I was like, okay,
They took up the grammar or the vocabulary immediately.
keeping us at home and away from witnessing truth out there, like hospitals. Yeah, and you've got to think about all of the people right now in isolation that were probably hurting before this ever started, whether they be elderly without anybody around, or the drug addicted, or just the people down on their luck, and what they're going through right now. This social distancing and hashtag alone together, like it's killing them.
It's interesting. This train of thought that we're on made me think about 20 seconds ago. Oh, yeah, the gospel. You're supposed to go everywhere, like we said, the hospitals. And now they're like, oh, this is cut off First Amendment. You can't talk to anyone because you can't leave the house. And if you can't go and do what you normally would, thank God. And literally, I mean it like, thank you, God. Thank God for, look at us, the internet. We're talking to
Yeah.
each other. I don't even know. And you
Right.
don't know where you live or you don't know where I live.
Right.
And here we are communicating, and we could say whatever we want. They might cut us off, but
That is
isn't that
definitely
something?
a godsend.
Yeah,
You know,
he's using
Yeah.
the medium.
They arrested that one pastor, I think in Florida, for holding church. You know,
Yep.
meanwhile they are. I don't know if anybody saw the story today in where was it, in New York? Yeah, Bedford-Stuyvesant. They were arrested like 3 people, and they were in jail like 36 hours. If you read the story, the police said that an informant told them about this gathering of 25, and apparently this informant who was in this gathering told the people to disperse, and when they wouldn't, this informant called the police. And I was like, oh my gosh, they have informants that are informing on the people. It was just a group of 25 somewhere in Bedford-Stuy. Meanwhile, you can't hold church, but Planned Parenthood remains open. There's a lot of demonic battles going on right now.
Yeah, I learned so much about that through my family, and especially, I mean, because my dad's mom, she came to this when I was 18 months old. But between some of my parents and my other 2 grandparents and my grandmother that lived with us, I would hear all these stories about what we've heard in English. We call them the brown shirts, the Germans. They would have people in the countries that would work with them and be informants. And here's what my mom said recently. She goes, yeah, you know what was interesting about that? The Germans didn't care about those people. They said, what, if they're traitors in their own country, would we care about them or trust them? I mean, we could just as well shoot them because they're total traitors, and that's what those people are, that informant you just mentioned. They're not worth anything, but here it is happening.
They're not respected by anybody.
Yeah.
Right. Scary stuff. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. We just wanted to do a scope and touch base with everyone. I know that it's been kind of a rough and interesting ride, and we want to give people hope. And
I think Felipe did a great job of helping us close on a positive note and
definitely
putting a great perspective on it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. And you guys are, it was the 3 of us talking. So it takes 3 to tango in this case. We're really helping out what you said about doing this scope. And I just happened to chime in, but it's really great that we have this medium. And my friend says the medium is the message. So what's the message? And that's great what you're doing.
Well, we want it to be good, and where 2 or more gather in his name. And we try to do that today.
Right. To offer hope, to remind people to not to fear. The rest of the country seems to be in a state of fear, but you can you lead by example, and we can pray, and prayer still works. So I don't want people to forget that we're going through something crazy right now. I don't think any of us. I didn't see this coming. No. But it's a spiritual battle, and if that's not obvious, if this doesn't wake you up, I don't know what will. But we just wanted to give people a view of what's on our mind, and see what a lot of you out there were thinking. I'm sorry that I wanted to be able to talk to Kathy, but Periscope did not want us to talk to Kathy. But maybe we'll do another one some other time and get her on. But keep the faith. Like the title and the things in our Periscope says, fear not, pray for everything.
I guess she's talking to me.
What'd she say?
She said,
Can Elle lead us in a good prayer? You want to end in prayer?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, it sounds like a good way to go. I'll jump off and let you guys finish. And
all right,
let's eventually, when you close, please do. Let's all be together in prayer, and I'll say,
Thank
see
you so much
hopefully
for joining.
soon. Yeah, thanks for
All
what
right,
you're doing.
thanks. We good.
Okay, bye.
All right. All right.
All right. Well, thank you, God, for this this scope that we just had. Thank you for Felipe and all the people, Kathy and Jane that joined, and for people to remember that we need to stay positive and not fear anything, and also pray for everything. And thank you for what you have already done for us. You have already given us so many blessings.
Amen.
And also I would like to help spread the word that there's a lot of us like thinking people that are on the same page. We think we might be in the minority, but if God is for us, who can be against us?
Amen.
And I think there's a lot of people out there for the same thing too. And I want to bless this and bless everyone here watching, and thank you for joining us.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Michaela says amen. All right, we're going to wrap this up, and we might even do another scope before the Ides, which is on the 13th, I think.
13th.
I'm not sure. Who knows what it'll be like then, and we're going to do one, and Kathy's going to get
Kathy's going to get on this time.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks you guys, and I guess we'll finish out this Friday and see what comes this afternoon. Because what time is it? It's only 3:23. The day's still young. But you guys stay positive and just remember to don't tap into the fear. They need your permission to do that. So don't. Time to. Okay. Michaela's cooking right now.
Oh,
so.
Billy, you're going to cook me dinner? Cool, man. Thanks, dude.
Did Dad comment?
He's
He
on
said
there.
time
He
to
said
cook
it's
dinner.
time to cook dinner.
I said, all right, Billy's going to cook me dinner.
I'm pre-marinating stuff that I'm gonna cook at Kelly's.
Oh, well, thanks for that. Anyway, all right.
It's quitting.
We'll see you next time.
And my phone just died. It made it all the way.
Okay.